No job is above you as the founder. You have to do anything and everything in order to make the business successful.
Did you ever determine what the payoff was for the chaos?
Oh, the payoff has been a lot of business success.
And the unknown is such a magical point in life that few people, they're afraid to go there because they want the steady, the normal, the everyday thing, but that's not where the growth is.
Everybody said, well, how long are you going to build this company? How long are you going to run it? And I'm saying, when I lose passion, I will step down. And in the blink of an eye, that's what happened.
Spirituality and capitalism belong together. Those thoughts, those feelings, that comes from something bigger than I am. And together I believe we can all grow. That's how we're going to change the world. That's how we're going to change the planet. All right, well, thank you so much, Bobby, for coming out here to the studio. Just so you guys know, I've got Bobby Morgan, and today one of the things I'm excited to talk about is that you coming from this life of being a farmer, and you obviously had to turn around and shovel a lot of shit, but the fact is today we're not going to do that. We're going to make sure that the shit that I believe that has been shoveled over and over in the entrepreneurial journey is something we're going to get rid of today, and I appreciate you coming out.
Well, Dalton, thank you for having me. It's the journey of an entrepreneur is interesting, how it gets started, where it ends up. There's a lot of ups and downs in between, but you're right, there's a lot of shit that gets shoveled.
Exactly.
And I'm on a new mission in my life to hopefully help future entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs lead a more prosperous life and not fall into some of the pitfalls that, some of us have fallen into.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really, it's something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs, so for those that don't know, Bobby has seen some of the levels of success in a business that I believe a lot of people, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but you went from a point in time in your life to where you were employed by the government, you were an engineer, so you got this really beautiful mind, and at the same time you turned around and you created your own firm. And when you created your own firm, you had a moment in time that changed your life. Tell me about that.
Which moment? I probably have about 10 pivotal moments that changed my life. I was blessed. I grew up working on a dairy farm. And I know a lot of people go, huh? Yeah, and my first real job was cleaning out the barns and shoveling shit. But that taught me a whole lot of lessons, particularly when you're an entrepreneur, that no job is above you as the founder. You have to do anything and everything in order to make the business successful. But there got to a point where we were successful, we grew the business, and we had an opportunity to sell one division. And with the grace of God, we sold it, and life changed. But life didn't change exactly like I thought it would. It was almost anticlimactic. Imagine you actually do the deal, and you're laying in bed on a Sunday morning because that's when we closed. It was 8 a.m. I didn't even get out of bed, and we were on a conference call when the deal was done. There was no popping of champagne. There was none of that idealistic moments that you have. And the next thing you know, the next day you got to go work on the other division of the business. And to be honest with you, that pivotal moment was, yes, success. But I also walked into a retreat on how to grow the rest of the business.
Right.
And after a week of sitting there, I just lost all passion. And I walked in the following Monday and told my two partners that I was done. Ooh. So it was, and I always told myself, I said, everybody said, well, how long are you going to build this company? How long are you going to run it? And I'd say, when I lose passion, I will step down. And in the blink of an eye, that's what happened.
So, Bobby, there's this moment in time with most entrepreneurs, right, or founders, they've been building their business. How long had you been building your business before you decided to, that moment in time where you walk away on that Monday and you say, you know what, I no longer want to do this. This is not the thing. How long had you been doing the business before that?
15 years.
So 15 years. So you're burnt out at this point in time.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you don't realize it because you just keep going. I think entrepreneurs have this inner strength, and you just keep pushing and pushing because that's what you're supposed to do. But when you actually have time to actually sit back and reflect and actually pay attention to your body and your head, you go, yeah, I'm done. I was just mentally, physically, spiritually, just everything was completely wiped out. And that comment that I actually made in an interview, a news interview, and I remembered that, and I said, you know what? I lost it. I shouldn't be running this company. For the betterment of the business, I needed to step aside. But it was, I was financially secure now, but I wasn't fulfilled. And, I'm driven to keep creating and doing more, and I lost that ability to create. I was just running day-to-day stuff, so it wasn't fun anymore. It was a big decision, but probably a decision that has paid off in spades ever since.
But you get to that point in time where now you have security, right? You've got money in the bank. You basically have fuck you money at this point in time, correct?
Yeah, but the funny thing is, you say that, but it's not enough.
Got it.
Because you sit back and go, well, other people have more. I can get more.
So were you measuring yourself? So you've got more money at that point in time than most people would ever really know what to do with. And so does the measuring stick now become this person has more money than me or that person has more money than me, and so I know I'm capable of doing more, and now the money just becomes a measuring stick and not...
I think that's part of it. We live in a comparable society. Let me compare myself to other people, which I would not advocate for now that I'm a little older and wiser and having gone through this. But it's also too, it's what drove you in the first place. Right. It's this desire to create and build. And I never, to be honest with you, the money was never. I got great advice from a very special advisor. He said, "Look, if you build a great company, you will get great results.
Right.
If you build it to sell it, it will be a mediocre company at best." So I never did it for the money, but when the money came, it wasn't as euphoric as one might expect.
It's the it's the old adage is that build a company of value and also build it as if you could sell it. So be ready always to sell if you can, but always act as if you're not going to, because then you're making decisions for the betterment of your company, the betterment of your staff, the betterment of all kinds of things. Yeah. But you get to this point in time then. So you've been doing this for a long time. You end up selling your company, what is it, early 20s, roughly?
Early 20s.
Or how old were you when you sold the company?
Oh, I was 45.
Oh, okay. I thought
I was over 50.
Oh, you're over 50?
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought I had heard that you had sold it in earlier. So your whole purpose, okay, this makes sense then. So your whole purpose for a long period of time is you're building this company, you hit your 50s, and now you lose complete purpose.
Yeah. And I think that was the big shock was it wasn't the sale. All that stuff was great, financially secure for the rest of my life, family's taken care of. But when you think about prosperity, it's not just money. It was, I lost my purpose. Because I stepped down as CEO, and so I lost my purpose. What I didn't expect was the loss of all my relationships. When you're the CEO of a business, a lot of your relationships, friendships, that you think are friendships are tied to your business. And when you're no longer in charge, those relationships kind of disappeared. So that surprised me, being a servant leader and somebody who gave back to the community through philanthropy and all these things. All of a sudden you lost your mission and purpose, but you also lost your tribe, your network, your connectivity, and my identity. I had basically foregone my own personal identity for being the founder and CEO of Morgan Franklin Corporation. And every article and every interview and every conversation was in that vein of me running and building this company. And all of a sudden, in a span of 2 weeks, that's all gone. And it took me a while to recover from that.
Yeah, and I can see how your identity would be tied into that. I mean, you guys have worked with, for those that don't know, the company itself did a lot of engineering and did a lot of business consulting, and it worked on a lot of top secret projects with the government. You worked under many different presidents over a period of time. So this wasn't some small company. This was something was really in service to the military. You guys were doing a lot of different things with the government. So you have a lot of ego tied into all of us. I mean, most people can't say I work with the president. I can't say that.
Yeah.
But I can say, as you were saying that, I started reflecting back a little bit and thinking, my gosh, so much of when I have built businesses, that most of my tribe, most of the people that I'm around, because I'm so tied into what I'm doing, which I realized is about probably 3-4 years ago, maybe. And that was that so much was tied to that experience. All my friendships, the things I did, the places I went to, the conferences I went to, all of it was tied to those people and nothing else, right? I didn't have a whole lot of tribe outside of that. So people say, hey, Dalton, like, do you not have a lot of fun? I'm like, oh, I'm always having fun. But it wasn't the fun they saw. It was something completely different. So you leave the company and you wake up, let's say Tuesday morning or whatever day it is you wake up and you realize you no longer are part of the company. You don't have to serve the purpose anymore. Take me through that a little bit.
Yeah, that was, to be truthful, I didn't know it. I know it now, but at the time I went into depression. I was, I built a company, so I did not dedicate and was not as connected to my wife and 3 boys as I should have been. And at this point in time, they understand why. Like, that success obviously had a cost, and they understand that. So, that loss of purpose, that, disintegration of my entire social fabric caused, some for me to just actually disconnect even further. When I should have been reaching out and leaning in, I actually became more of a recluse and just basically suppressed all those emotions down inside. I know this now after the last 2 years of, helping myself and being more present, but at the time I didn't understand it. What I did do was distract myself. So I found things to apply my energy to, some healthy, some unhealthy, but fortunately, one of the areas I've moved into was telling stories. And I started filming entrepreneurs of their light bulb moments, some of the hard things that they had to go through, their true grit stories. And I had my 3 boys we've always been a family that's big into films and TV shows, but not just to watch, but to actually understand how they're made and the emotions behind it and things like that. I started tapping into relationships, and next thing you know, I start Teleria Media, and I have a film and TV production company. So I'm starting to tell stories now, and that actually kind of pulled me out of it to give me purpose. And now I'm building a new tribe, making new connections. So what made me successful with Morgan Franklin, I'm now applying to this new area. Now, at the same time, I'm not being healthy because I'm not being present with myself, and I'm just back into the same, pitfalls of being an entrepreneur and just pouring all my energy into those things.
You go back into the familiar,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And man must have purpose, first and foremost. If not, we get depressed.
Yeah.
Second is we have to have community, or we have to have a sense of belonging, and we have to have a sense of safety.
Yeah.
And so with all of those things being dismantled when you left your organization, the only thing you go back to, it sounds like, is what you know as safety, which is building, growing, creating from probably, I would guess, because it's not from a place of trying to have more money, but it's definitely from a place of trauma of like, what's the word I want to use? It's about having like self-value or like my life fucking means something.
Yeah.
Like I'm not here for nothing. And I get that about you when I spoke with you.
Yeah. And it was, so now I'm I turned that storytelling into a new opportunity with Live Prosperous, where we're helping to teach high achievers and aspiring high achievers how to manage their social and emotional regulation and develop resilience and those kind of things. But I had to go through my own personal journey of figuring out what was causing the neurological, physical ramifications of being an entrepreneur and building a business, and then, going through a period of depression and just trying to understand what my thing is. Now I'm jumping into making films and TV shows, and all of a sudden that hits you. And I finally realized that it wasn't trauma that was causing me to do that. It was an addiction to chaos. I went through a journey experience last year, a little over a year ago. And it was an eye-opening experience because I was going through this therapy, and I'm understanding that after years of building businesses and being creative, that it was taking a physical toll on me. And I had never physically, I get checked 3-4 times a year. I'm not overweight. I'm in good shape. But internally, the energy that was just building up in me was starting to almost like a nuclear meltdown. And I go through this journeying process, and it was so enlightening because it finally dawned on me. It's like, what's driving me is this addiction to chaos that started when I was 18 years old, when I had to battle cancer. And I battled cancer while I was going through electrical engineering. And then I get out and I start working for the Navy SEAL teams, designing communication systems. And I'm working for the White House. And it's just one step after another was just pure chaos, high intensity chaos, working at that level. But I loved it and I thrived in it. So now all of a sudden I'm like, I need to slow down and heal myself. But I couldn't figure out what was causing. I couldn't stop. I couldn't slow down. And when things would get calm and slow, I would create chaos.
Did you ever determine what the payoff was for the chaos?
Oh, the payoff has been a lot of business success.
Yeah, but what's the payoff for the chaos? So, I mean, yeah, business success, great. But you already said that, hey, I have money now. But you're still creating chaos in your life at that point in time.
Yeah.
What's the payoff?
There is no payoff.
There has to be. We don't do anything for the reason,
well,
unless there's some form of an internal payoff.
Yeah.
Does it make you feel important? Does it keep things so that you can avoid other places in your life? Does it because I have to ask, as we're sitting here talking, I'm like, man, I notice, because we're working. So this is funny. We always create from a place from the wounds, right? We always create from our own traumas. And most entrepreneurs, whether we like it or not, we are insecure, sometimes little boys. And we're trying to find things, and we're trying to find purpose and meaning. And through that, one of the things we've been working on internally is how do we end the chaos? How do we simplify the chaos? Because chaos is what causes us to spend more time, more energy, more focus away from the things we say we love, the things we say we care about. So the question I have for you is, what is the payoff from chaos?
My payoff from chaos was the realization that, like you just articulated, I needed to better control my energy. We had my business partner, Rob Franklin, his dad was a union carpenter from Jersey. And he put his arms around us one time and gave us the best piece of advice ever. He goes, boys, just so you know, you have to pay to learn. No matter what in life, you have to pay for school. Like if you do something silly, you put your hand on a stove, it's going to hurt, right? When you build a business, you go through a lot of pain for the success of the business. But the outcome is that you learn. And what I learned from all this 20 plus years of chaos that I was living in was I needed to do better to be present with myself, to take care of my energy, to be more efficient with my energy, to apply it with the people that I love as opposed to people who are just sucking energy from me. So I don't know if there's a right answer on where the chaos payoff is, but it teaches you, hopefully, that there's a better way of doing it. So now I'm on, building Tulare Media and Live Prosperous, and I feel like I'm not in chaos, but I'm still creating, I'm still building, I'm still impacting people. I have a mission, I have a purpose, but it's much more controlled and much more sustainable.
So to clarify that question just a little bit, and that is, what was the payoff to create the chaos? Not what did you learn from the chaos, because that's what you learn from the chaos, right? So if you look and you say, okay, I create chaos because of this, I think it's a way to unwind this conversation, because you're not the only person, right? You're not the only person to create chaos in their life. I'm not the only person to create chaos in my life. But there's a payoff for everything we do. There's a purpose for everything we do, whether it is in the subtleties of what we're breathing in, there's a subtlety to it, or whether it's a full-on expression of our awareness. But there is something there that gives us the payoff for it. So what do you think, if you really were to listen to your heart, what was the payoff for creating chaos?
It was driven by curiosity, but it was turned into this ability to create. I love architecting things. I love designing things. I love, I'm creating films and TV shows now, creating businesses, creating campaigns to help people, those kind of things. I think the payoff for the chaos for me was this constant opportunity to be creative, work with dynamic people, energetic people, things like that. Like I love people with positive energy. So the chaos put me in a position to constantly meet new people, experience new things.
Yeah. I can relate. Like I
Yeah.
can relate it to me when I hear that terminology. It reminds me of like a whirlwind, right?
Yeah.
Or a tornado, like moving really, really fast.
Yeah.
And inside of theirs, it's moving fast. There's momentum. There's energy. We're picking up things. We're pulling them into
Yeah.
our space, and we're moving.
Yeah.
And yet sometimes we are moving so fast that the rest of the world can't keep up, and typically we can't keep up, right? Which creates this level of burnout. Where do you think that we get this level of modeling from a place of creativity, that we think in order to be creative, we must be chaotic?
I think it's lack of knowledge. I think this country was built on that work ethic. I mean, let's just be real. Like we expanded west. I mean, you just look at, we're sending rockets to space, and now they're doing soft landings, and like that creativity has led us to where we're at. I think some of the narrative has been, in order to achieve that, you must burn out. You must work yourself. You must sacrifice family, friends, life. You must make this your full identity, when the reality is you don't have to. For me now, looking back, wiser and older, you have the opportunity, if you actually take better care of yourself, control that chaos better. You never eliminate chaos. Life is chaos, right? It hits you every day,
of course,
whether we want it to or not. So
it's how we interact with that.
How
chaos
we interact with
it,
right? So having the skills to be able to interact with that and recognize that this just came at me, it's not really beneficial. That person, that situation is chaos. Move them to the side and focus on the things and the people that you care most about. To me, it really turned into this notion of like, I have to work with everybody and anybody, because there's always an opportunity to, like, being more focused and more defined who I spend my energy with and what I spend my energy on.
Yeah, I love that. There's one of the things I really enjoy about you, and that is that what I can tell about you is that you tell stories, but you're not your stories. And what I mean by that is that you have fought cancer. You have gone through depression. You've gone through all these different things in your life, right? Which some people would say defines them. Like, I am a cancer survivor, or I am a this, or I am a man that's exited a business, or I am this. Yeah. But you are more like, no. I tell stories, and I tell stories to inspire. So one of the things I look at a lot when we're talking, and I keep asking myself this, is that we don't want to create chaos in business, and we want to make sure that we stay, we'll say, well balanced, and we want to make sure that we are doing things a certain way to be able to operate our companies. And yet, when I look at the things that I create, I push the team and I push them long hours, because I've got to get things done. There's only so much runway of capital. There's only so many ways to get things done. There's got to be enough revenue coming to be able to support that, because you have the capital side of things, right? You have the drive, which is the purpose, the passion, like why you're doing it, more that spiritual side. Then you have the capital side, which has to push along that experience. Tell me, Bobby, like, how do we do that? Like, how do we do that to where it is balanced, and that we are giving everything we can to our team, having our team give everything they can back to us, and at the same time continue to push that mission forward?
Yeah.
What's the key here?
Well, it's funny. When I was building Morgan Franklin, I almost distinctly remember this day where somebody came in and said, all of our competitors are talking about work-life balance. We have to instill work-life balance. And for some reason, that never stuck with me, because life isn't balanced. From moment to moment, it can be off balance, from day to day, or week to week, or month to month, right? And I'm like, well, I actually more subscribe to work hard and play hard. Like, you pour everything you can. We're here for a purpose. We're here to do a job, right? That job affords us to do other things. But when we're not working on that, pour that same heart and energy into relaxing, taking care of yourself, and taking care of the ones that you love, and experiences, traveling the world, seeing different cultures, going to Costa Rica, whatever. Like, take that curiosity, right, and passion that you had in building your business, and pour it into your personal life. That way you don't end up with this rut where it's just 100% going into the business. From a financial standpoint, we talked earlier, like, another aspect of that with entrepreneurs is like you feel like you have to roll over every dollar into building your business. That's not healthy either, right? I would highly encourage every entrepreneur to find a methodology of taking a percentage of that capital that you earn and take it off the table so that you're not sitting there after 15 years with nothing in the bank, but all your sweat equity poured into the business. And I've known business owners who've lost it all because they've never taken anything off the table.
Yeah, they continue to roll it on black.
You just continue to roll it on black, and next thing you know, an event that they had nothing to do with, they completely out of their control, and it's gone. So it is financial, right? And again, there's an ROI cliff for everything. You can only put so much of your personal energy into a business and have that return. Same with capital, right? You feel like you have to spend the capital, but really, if you're actually more diligent on that capital, you would focus on spending it on the right things and not just everything. So it's a whole philosophy of just trying not to be balanced, because again, balance doesn't happen.
No, I think the concept of balance is a complete lie.
Yeah.
There's a company years and years ago. It was called Bootstrap Business, and there's one thing they taught. Don't know if it's their concept or not, but they called it zigzag. And what they said is that there's going to be times where you're going to be in the building phase, and you're going to be pushing really hard in the building phase. It might be an 80-hour week. It's possible. It might be even more than that.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be times where you're going to be on vacation for 2 weeks. And then there's going to be times where you're in these different phases of your business because it requires different points. I mean, it's different from going from an idea to a startup to like somewhat of a balance, and then continuing down this different path. And every single path, as you grow, and obviously it's about getting the right leaders and the right people in place. If you were to go back and you were to look at when you started your company in originally, not knowing knowing what you know now, but not knowing all of the mistakes and the downfalls and the things you were going to have to do, you think you would do it again?
Oh, yes.
What would you have done differently, though?
Be honest with you, I get asked that question a lot. Yeah. Life's a journey. I would never do anything differently, because otherwise I may not be here sitting talking to you.
Right. It's fair.
I'm just a big
though.
believer that it's like everything you do builds on something. Chaos theory, right? I mean, if you change one minor thing that happened 15 years ago, I may not be making films. I may be not sitting here having this conversation with you. I may not be creating Live Prosperous. I just never really thought that, and again, managing my energy, why go back and relive that?
Yeah.
I did it. I made the decision. I either reap the reward or not, and I move forward. It's one of those things that I've lived with my entire life. I don't know where it came from. I had a grandfather who ran his dairy farm. He was a brilliant man. To this day, probably one of the best business people I've ever met in my life. And he never looked back. He made decisions. He lived with them. He moved on. Never really thought about it because I'm here now sitting with you. So you just take those moments. They're events. They have, meaning at the time, but they're events, and we flow on. The events are over.
Right.
So
yeah, it's true. So, but since that point in time, though, you've got no regrets. You built your business. You had the burnout. What are you doing now to help people that have been in your shoes or about to be in your shoes? Because so I look at when we talk about entrepreneurs, right? There's always this type personality, right? And that's one version, the Wall Street version of what a CEO looks like, because that is what we have been taught and shown.
Yeah.
There's also the Steve Jobs version, which is, we'd say, very close to that. And we can start to go down and we can say, okay, there's things that make people really good CEOs, or there's things that make good people really good founders or creators. And what I've heard constantly from you throughout the day, that is that you are a creator, right? So if we look at source, God, that the level of what happens from that higher perspective is source is a creator. So therefore, like, you are creating the same thing, right? So it's godlike energy. And I believe that most entrepreneurs, they're simply artists and they use a different medium and a different way to measure that medium, right? And the minute they stop creating, then they die.
Yeah.
Like literally their hearts die, their soul dies, their purpose dies.
Yeah.
Like there's something inside of them that they know that this is the way they are wired. And these are the rules of the game that they have been prescribed to, right? That these are the rules that you play by. But you're rewriting the rules in a little bit. You know, you're trying to focus in a different way of making this happen. How are you doing that?
Yeah. Well, it's to your point, I think we've been told this is the way it has to be. And I think a lot of it is focusing on the business side of entrepreneurship. You have to have an idea, right? You have to have a good team. You have to have the capital. You have to do the accounting. You have to market it. You have to promote it. You have to do a brand all that stuff. Inherently, I think what people forgot was that we're human beings. We have emotions. We have energy. And nobody ever talks about how you develop those skills. So now I'm on this mission to build a platform called Live Prosperous, which focuses on the social and emotional skills for people who want to achieve and be prosperous in life. Now, that could be entrepreneurs. It could be a professional college athlete trying to be a professional athlete. It could be a high school senior just trying to get through high school and get into a good college. You want to achieve something. You want to be prosperous. How do you manage and control your emotions? How do you develop grit and resilience so that, you know, when the world throws stones at you, you know how to handle it? And I'm glad you mentioned the creativity and the artist, because we've created these 8 pillars. And again, I mentioned about me not being present with myself. That's the very first one. If people always ask me, what do you think is the 2 most important traits of a CEO or an entrepreneur? I'm like, well, first off, you need to be self-aware. You need to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, because you can't do everything. Me, I know I don't have the focus and attention to look at debits and credits from a finance and accounting standpoint.
Me neither.
I'm going to hire a good CFO.
Know your strengths.
Know my strengths.
Yeah.
The other one is empathy. Like, you are responsible for a group of people. You've created a company. They're relying on you. So but at the same time, you need to understand where they're coming from socially and emotionally, work-wise, everything. So you know, when we started creating these pillars for Live Prosperous, if you go down the list, they really are almost spot on for an entrepreneur. First off, you have to be present. You have to understand who you are. You have to check your own gauges. You cannot build a company if you're unhealthy, if your mind is wandering, if you don't have control over yourself. So you have to take care of yourself. The next one is be a firefighter. As a CEO and a founder, you're constantly putting out fires. There's an art to calming down and putting out fires. We're not taught that. And in today's world, with the hyperprotectiveness over kids, they're not being taught or given the opportunity to put out their own fires. So they go off into college and they go off into the workforce, and they hit the workforce and they're like, they don't know how to handle fires. So we need to teach people how to put out the fires, and there's ways to do that. The next one is be an author. As an entrepreneur, you're the author of your story. You're the author of your own personal story, but you're also the author of your business story. And that is your culture, your values, what you want to be known for, who you want to surround yourself with. So you're the one that has to write that. And then the next one is how to be a pilot. You're the pilot of your journey in life and in work, or running your business as an entrepreneur. You know where you want to go. You have to create a game plan, and then you have to fly the plane, and you have to course correct and get you there. Another one is how to be a manager. And this to me is probably one of the more impactful ones, because we are in a very connected society, even though we're trying to disconnect, but there's so many people that come into our lives. Like, you have to be very diligent about who you let in your life. There's positive energy, there's negative energy, there's energy vampires. Like, you know, when you build a company, you're recruiting people that you feel fits your culture, your passion, your mission. And more times than not, the people we've had to let go, whether it be in Live Prosperous or my previous company, were people who were not aligned with the mission and purpose and the passion of the business. They just didn't feel it.
Right.
And I always told every new hire that came in the door, I said, if this place is not right for you, No hard feelings. Leave. Go find a job in a place where it meets your passion and your goals. Like, why are you sitting here? It's not healthy for you, and it's not healthy for us. So being a good manager is important. Being agile, nothing works as planned. Like, you have to pivot and change direction. I remember distinctly there was a moment in time when, you get bogged down in that annual strategy process. And me and my business partner were like, you know what? We keep spending all this time on creating a strategic plan. And then we never look at it because life happens, world happens. And so I said, let's just quit doing strategy and let's come up with guardrails. You're zigzag. Like, now you have guardrails. We know what we're not going to do. But there's a lot of different ways that you can get there, zigzagging to where you want to go. But that requires having this idea that you're agile.
It's definitely more important to know where you're not going to go. Right. Having those guardrails, as you said, and as you kept talking, one of the things, and you were talking about all of these different points about business and about what you guys have laid the foundation on. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I'm gonna preference this by saying, like, just kind of think about this for a moment. A job of a CEO is to create an environment for the people around them to thrive on based upon the mission of the outcome that the company is looking for. Obviously, finances are a big role in that. But if we don't create an environment to where people can thrive, to be their best they can, that creates, once again, safety, community, belonging, like, then we don't have the mechanics to be able to really make up a long-term vision. And I believe that when we create a company, we say that we're hiring on people. I don't believe that's where we're at anymore. I believe we're attracting people to the mission, which then makes your job as the founder, CEO, who's responsible for these lives, really, a lot easier because they're aligned with the values and the mission, and because you have thought enough, or I have thought enough, to create an environment where people can thrive and live in. And also, the key to a good leader is a word you used that I don't know if it's something that was used in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s even, and that is the word empathy, emotional intelligence about knowing where your people are at, where they're trying to go to, and like how you can help them get there. Because people don't really care they care what you can do for them, which is where we got back to that community thing, and we got back to that. This is where our culture ties into where friendships are, because it is an area for them to grow in. And I think as owners, we have to continue to remember that these people are looking to evolve as well. These people are looking to move forward. And if the mission is not big enough that it doesn't call to them, it doesn't call to their hearts, they don't care.
Right.
Like, you're working right now with NFL players, you're working with movie stars, you're working with all these different people that have come into your space because of your mission is so big that they can relate to what you're doing. And they say, you know what? I'm on board. Like, let's go. Like, let's make this thing happen, because there's something inside of them that says, oh, I was once like that. And I believe that it's our job as wisdom holders. And what I mean by that is that you walk the fire to show people that it doesn't actually burn. At the same time, you now have the awareness to know it doesn't burn, so you can turn around people behind you and you can say, hey, listen, you can have the strength, you can have the fortitude, you can have the bravery to come with me. And my job is not to keep you here. My job is to elevate you far beyond what you even have the capacity to do. And I believe that's what a good leader does.
Oh, wholeheartedly. It really starts with you. Like, you're the author. Like, you're the one that is saying, this is what, and I love your point about we're not hiring people. No, we're attracting people to come join our mission, right? And okay, so you're attracted. You still have to create the environment. And now that I've looked back on it, it's like, I want people who are curious. Like, yes, I'm the CEO, I'm the founder, but I expect people to be curious and ask me questions and challenge me. Like, I don't have all the answers. Again, that's self-awareness. But also beyond being curious, the courage to do something different, right? I think we've been, there's a damaging effect of telling people like we live in a negative society. This business is going to fail. It's not going to make it, right? Why do you think you can do this, right? So to me, it's curious and courage, right? Having the willing to jump in, and that's what I love about being an entrepreneur is you actually attract people who have courage. This isn't the life. It's not like working for GE that's been around for over 100 years.
Right.
It's a different life. So between curiosity and courage, but then also creativity, you're giving people an opportunity to be part of the solution, not just come in and make a box, sell a box. You're part of the vision. You're part of, and again, I can sit here and say, well, my DNA is all over the culture of the business. But after 3 years now with this core team, the culture is part their DNA too, right? So it's to me, it's this collaboration. We were joking earlier about organizational charts. I hate organizational charts. What's my level? What's my title? I've advised entrepreneurs who've struggled with that. I said, well, what's more important, your shareholder value or your title? It's your shareholder value.
Absolutely.
Right? If you want a title and be in the wrong position and make bad decisions and not help your shareholder value, have at it. But that's not why you're here. You've created a company to build shareholder value. So just allowing that culture to build and grow. But again, if you're attracting the right people, if you open up your heart and say, these are the kind of people I want in my life, they find you. That's what's really amazing to me. And this last 2 years with Live Prosperous, like I've had glorious people just drop into my life out of nowhere, all because of our mission, the purpose, and because we want to help people grow, be prosperous, and not end up in a situation where you're dealing with mental health issues or divorced or whatever loss that you may have or struggling with a transition. If your life is great and you're in a green zone, good, we want to keep you green. If you're yellow and you're struggling with something, let's help you. Let's get you back to green. If you're in the red zone and you're really struggling, this is we're creating an opportunity for you to, give a lifeline to people so that they can go get help. And it's amazing. There's a lot of people who won't acknowledge they need help. And that's everybody from professional athletes to highly special operations soldiers. Like people who achieve don't want to admit they're struggling.
Of course not, because that's where their identity is tied to, right? Like,
So,
I can relate. You get to this point in time where you don't want to show, and it's also not okay to show weakness,
No.
and you know that, and it's also beautiful to show weakness, right? Like, there's something extremely beautiful about it, and I love how that you have that awareness about it. I love how you're building this new way of seeing things, and also not new at all, right? But you're using science. You have doctors behind you. You've got, like I said, you've got athletes behind you. You have all of these different components. You're tying in stories with education, with self-awareness. And that's such a thing that we all need and can continue to use all the time. And that is to be aware of where we are, aware of our stories, aware of our communities, aware of so many things around us, because it's what shapes everything, and being an entrepreneur, like you've said something, and what it means to me from the perspective I'm hearing it, and I hope people hear this at home, is that it's about being bold. Like, it's not about just the business. It's not just about the culture, and that matters. It's not just about the purpose, but it's who am I becoming along this journey?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to read different books. You're going to have to try things you've never done before. You're going to have to fail. You're going to have to learn leadership skills, communication skills. There's all of these things. It's not just A and B. But I believe the greatest journey that anybody can take in self-development is to start something, create something, build something to see what's capable. Right? You might fall on your face, or you might win.
Yeah.
In your case, you won big. And the thing about what I love also about your story is the fact that you went to your first mountain, as they call it, right? And now you're on your second or third or fourth mountain, who knows? But the fact is that there's always a way, even though if you feel like you're in your depths and your despair, that you can always climb up if you focus on something outside of yourself to serve other people and to step into a place of creativity of the unknown. And the unknown is such a magical point in life that few people, they're afraid to go there because they want the steady, the normal, the everyday thing. But that's not where the growth is. That's not where the experience is. That's where reality TV is. That's where sitting on your couches and watching other people experience life. But the real growth comes into going boldly into the dark, into the places you don't want to go. And I've seen that through the whole entire path of your life. You could have taken the easy route, took over the farm when you were a kid. You could have continued to stay with your company. You could have done all these things. But from what I can see is you continue just to push the edge a little bit, learn a little bit more, grow a little bit more, find out what's possible, and solve big problems.
Yeah. I love the word bold. And you said two things there, being bold and also helping other people. Self-help is not a new thing.
No. Oh, gosh, no.
So at Live Prosperous, yes, we're doing a lot of things for you to help yourself. What's bold about it is our last pillar, which is be a lifeguard. We're going to teach people to learn how to listen, learn how to lean in, learn how to throw a lifeline to somebody. I just witnessed you do it down at the cafe. You leaned in and helped that young man.
Yeah.
Not for any reason other than...
I love seeing people win. No, there's a reason. It
It
is completely selfish, and anybody around me will tell you that. I fucking love seeing people win.
Well, that's the dirty little secret about helping other people. It actually has a tremendous effect on helping you.
Yeah.
It helps your mental health beyond almost anything else is if you lean in. We're designed to love and help one another, period.
Yep.
Our job, I saw this quote and I have it on my phone. It's like, our job is to be a good human. Do your job.
There's something just so beautiful about seeing a human being, because I know what it's like to be in the depths and despair, and so do you, right? Like, that's part of wisdom, is like that you have been there, you've done that you're not judging anybody for where they're at. You recognize, as we were talking about earlier, is that you're not the full capacity of the machine to do everything, that it takes a team. But when I see somebody giving of their heart and they're trying and they're doing their best and they're lost, they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, hey man, like, I have resources, I know people, I have experiences, I've read books, I've been in the journey. I've done a lot of what you're trying to do or attempt. Your journey may not be the same as mine. You may not get the same solution I have. You might have something much better. It might be much worse. But I love the fact that you're in the game. And if I can give you some pointers, some tips, anything, I am happy to give of myself if you continue to show up and play the game.
Yeah.
If you don't play the game and you give me fucking excuses, then guess what? I'm not your guy. Go find something else, but I'm not your guy.
I've been accused of being digital when it comes to relationships. I will support you, support you, support you. And if you do not try, if you do not put forth effort, it's like a cliff. I go from a 1 to a 0. But again,
relate, man.
but that's a long pathway to get there. But there is a point in time when, like you said, if I'm going to give you my energy and I'm going to help you, take advantage of it and do something with it.
Yep.
If you repeatedly refuse to do something with it, I'm going to take my energy, which is very valuable and important to me, and I'm going to apply it to other people who want to grow, want to achieve success, want to be prosperous. Like, that's just, we only have a finite amount of energy that we can give, right?
Exactly.
And you've got to maximize it. So,
and the thing to remember here, as people are listening, the entrepreneurial journey is amazing. Being a founder is incredible. Having a team behind you is an immense amount of responsibility. And the one thing that occurred to me a couple of days ago, I got back from a business trip, and my partner sat me down and said, listen, I need you present because I'm creating all the time. I need you present. And your companies, which is hard to hear sometimes, they may come and they may go. They might be here tomorrow. They might not be here tomorrow. But what's most important to me is my connection with you. What's most important is your connection with your family. What's most important is connection with your community. But those things won't leave.
yeah.
Money may, businesses might, technologies might, laws might change, everything might be gone. And in life is a finite experience. And to be able to realize what's important, imagine that today that you're sitting there and you find out you got 3 days to live and you've been here before, right? And all of a sudden you start to recognize, is the things I'm doing right now, would I stop by if there was a 90% sell somewhere? Like everything's off 90%. Would I really stop by? Or if I could get like my favorite cup of coffee, would I stop by and do that? Or would I want to rush home and be with the people I love, I care about, that I cherish, and that they're the people that make me do the things I do?
Yeah.
Like, was that what I would do? And I think it's a really good way to measure life, you know?
Yeah. I wake up every day at the top of my list and say, protect my energy. Because it's just, you wake up, and some days I don't wake up with the same amount of energy as I do every other day. But it really, so if you start thinking about what am I applying my time, talent, and treasure to, it has to be first and foremost yourself. You have to love yourself, protect yourself. Then you have the energy to love your family, protect them. And then it's your employees and the people you work with and you care about. It just every circle continues to grow out. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your family. You can't take care of your coworkers, your employees, and you can't help your community get stronger. It all starts with you. And I think that to me is where we want to be bold. And even our platform, when I say we help yourself, it's a I, we, them. Like you have to learn how to help yourself, but you also have to learn how to help others, right? Because we want stronger communities, we want stronger families. But that's the boldness of it. It's not just saying I'm going to help myself, because there's a lot of self-help stuff out there. We're inundated with self-help.
Oh yeah.
How do we teach people to help others? How do we teach people to have empathy? Learning how to listen is such a powerful tool. Like, even I'll give you an example of a major impact. We have a man on our team who has experienced a lot of loss in his life. He's lost friends in battle. He's had friends commit suicide. We took him through a class on suicide prevention. Now, suicide prevention makes it sound like it's all for the person going through suicide. It's actually for us too, because of the 5 steps, 3 of them are external. Learning how to listen, picking up the signs of somebody who's thinking about taking their life, because there are signs. They usually say something. And I'll give an example, but a next one is leaning in, having the courage to lean in, to say, I hear something, I'm sensing something. Are you going to commit suicide? You have to be that bold and that blunt. And then when they say yes and you help them go get help, stay connected with them. So it's learning how to listen, lean in, and stay connected. Those are 3 things that we all can do. Now that's suicide prevention, but actually that helps with everything in life. If you just woke up those 3 things every day, learn how to listen, lean in to help somebody who needs it, and then stay connected with them. It'd be a beautiful life. And where this came about was this man who had been through all this trauma, all this death and suicide, through a simulation, he could not say the words, are you going to commit suicide? He'd be like, are you okay? You're not feeling good? Go run 5 miles. About 3 months pass, and his son calls him and says, Dad, he goes, your best friend, something's not right. It's off. His apartment's a disaster, but it's okay.
Are you okay?
When that frog hits your throat, it's hard to get it out. I'll try to go back and.
It's okay. Yeah,
so this man goes through the simulation, and he cannot say the words, "Are you going to commit suicide?" And he says, "Are you okay? Is everything all right? Anything I can do?" He would not be blunt and bold and just say it. About 3 months passes. His son calls him and says, "Dad, a buddy of yours, I was at his apartment. It's a complete disarray, except for his military uniforms were pressed and lined up because something's not right." And gentlemen on this team, after learning how to listen and telling him to lean in and going through the simulations, he calls him up and says, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Well, I lost my job. I got into a fight. probably should have been thrown in jail. And out of nowhere, he goes, "Are you going to commit suicide?" The words he could not speak just came out. It turns out the man says, "Yes," and I have the bullet already picked out. He goes, "You sit right there." Went over, got him, took him, drove him into a clinic, and got him the help that he needed.
Wow.
Those are the three things that anybody and everybody can do. And now imagine if we just did that with everybody on a daily basis. Like when you walk into that cafe, you're listening to what that gentleman has to say, but you're also leaning in to help. And if it's something serious, you're offering to get him the help or take him to the help he needs, and then you stay connected with him. Three simple things that we can all do as human beings. Like, and so again, those are the kind of things that we're really bold about, because in that particular case, we saved somebody's life. Another gentleman on our team, two young men in high school listening to their friends saying, "Hey," he goes, "I want to have a dinner, say goodbye." And they're like, "Why does he want to say goodbye? Does he want to leave? Is he leaving?" He's not leaving. He was going to commit suicide. But these kids were listening.
Well,
That's so if you listen and you pick up on these things, you hear people are struggling. We're going through life not listening. So those to me is like where we can be bold, is we can like tackle some of the outstanding perceptions and things that have been created and break those down and start up and just build better human beings.
Thank you. Thank you for that, because that's something that we can all use.
Yeah.
Something we can all listen to, right? Just the fact right now that I'm sure that the information and the knowledge and the wisdom that you just imparted on people listening and saying, "Hey, like I'm noticing something are out of place. I'm going to be bold enough to ask you, are you thinking about committing suicide?"
Yeah.
Those are strong words.
And it takes courage to do that.
It does take some courage, and does take going bold. So with all the things you've created, all the things you've done, all the successes you've had, what do you want to be remembered for?
Oh, I love that question. Because when we were building Morgan Franklin, another downside is like you have to grow and expand and do all these things, right? And you set out this like, we're going to be the best at. Well, being the best is subjective. We can't even argue if LeBron James is greater than Michael Jordan. Right?
Well, I mean,
we can.
Just kidding.
But we love to argue about what's best.
Right.
So that advisor looked at me and goes, "What do you want to be known for?" That is a way more powerful question for entrepreneurs. Not how big you're going to get, not how financially secure you're going to be, how many employees you have. What are you known for? I want to be known for, first and foremost, somebody who took care of his family. I want to be known as somebody who's now, given the abundance that I have and the blessings that I have, is to find a way to help people grow, become stronger, be an advocate for continuous learning, continuous growth. That to me is the icing on the cake.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like using your creation, the abundance and the dollars you've created as a tool for good, for impact, right? Like that's a true investment.
Yeah.
Like, how does it impact your community, your village? Like, how does it really do that? You know, when it's not just about self, like how are we creating something much bigger that has a bigger ripple?
Yeah.
You like to reflect. I notice you reflect quite a bit. And one of the things I've been thinking is, here at the Spiritual Capitalist, we've got these listeners, and it's not so much just about listening and consuming, knowledge or information, even though I think we can learn through everybody. What would be, if someone was going to be sitting down right now and they have a journal in front of them, or they want to answer a question, say here on the comments, what is a journal prompt that you can think of that would be really impactful or powerful to them that will make them see the world a little bit differently?
I would say, first and foremost, because I get this question a lot, it's like, I'm thinking about starting a business, or I'm thinking about changing a career. As just happened 2 weeks ago with a good friend of mine. I said, my answer now is, what are you curious about?
Love it. I love that question so much.
So if you are going to be good at something, it's something that you care and you're curious about and you have passion for. If you're not going to be good at it. The second question I would ask people is like, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with positive, uplifting people who give you energy as much as you give them? Or are you surrounded by people who are constantly draining energy from you? Those two, for me, are the two more powerful questions that I constantly ask myself. I have my kids ask that question because it really is like you can get caught up in success and financial results and employee numbers of your business. But life is a journey and it's to be experienced. And the best, if you can have a better experience, it usually is driven by who you've surrounded yourself with.
Yes, that is true. And life is a journey, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things recently I heard at a conference, and the guy says, life is a journey. And that's almost the lie of it. And the reason it is because it's not important about the journey. What's important is about the path and the road that you take that leads you to where you're going. So asking powerful questions like you're asking lead us in the right direction. So what is it you're curious about right now?
What am I curious about?
Yeah. I mean, you asked the audience. I want to know what you're curious about.
I'm curious about developing Live Prosperous. And again, we have these 8 pillars, but I have probably 8 communities, like for first responders, for veterans, for minorities, for women, for men. Like I can take this in a whole different direction. So Live Prosperous gives me like a ridiculous amount of opportunities to be curious in ways that I can help people and actually take self-help to them as opposed to here's a meditation app, go meditate. It's like, well, okay, that's for everybody. But how can I come to you and say, Dalton, where are you at today in your life? Where do you want to be? And how can I help you there? That to me is what drives my curiosity with that. On the film and TV side of Teleria, like I'm pitching TV shows, like that curiosity. It's curiosity create, but I also love learning the business side of it. Like people go, how did you go from milking cows? Like I could explain the farming industry because I lived it, but I also understood it from a business and finance perspective. I went and worked for the government. I know how the government works. So I dive in and I just don't learn the job, but I don't understand the mechanics behind it. Now I'm making films, making TV shows. I want to understand. So that just drives my curiosity off the charts. And then on a personal side, the reason I went into electrical engineering was I love music. I grew up in an age, and I didn't have the time to play an instrument between sports and school and working on the farm. Didn't have time to play the guitar. But I went into electrical engineering because I wanted to understand how music was made. How do you pluck strings on a guitar, record it, put it on an album or a CD, right, at the time, play it, comes out into a box and comes out speakers, and you hear this beautiful sound. That's what drove me into electrical engineering. Now I'm older, I actually have the time, and I want to be present. I'm learning how to play the electric guitar. So
Nice.
I'm curious so now I'm learning music. Like I'm always curious about learning new things, new industries, new things.
Same. I can relate.
I find it fun. And I don't, but part of that is set intentions, but no expectations. So I intend to play the guitar, but I don't expect to play like Eddie Van Halen.
Sure.
Right. That's another powerful lesson I taught myself. Set intentions, but minimize expectations, because expectations are what get us unhappy.
Yeah, well, that actually is intentions don't have expectations. Right. And as a conversation with intentions, as one of my teachers tells me, and she tells me all the time, and that is that you keep your intention, you hold an intention, but you also have to recognize, though, too, as there's other things in the background working on your behalf. Yep. And the universe, God, source, whatever someone wants to call it, for them is that you didn't really know the best life that you would ever experience. So you can't plan it all out anyways. Yeah. So something is in the background that can make it even better than what you actually are even aware of it can be, and that's incredible. And the one thing I hope that our listeners get from this experience, and that is that when we think that we reach the pinnacle of success financially or exiting in a business, that really what we're really doing as entrepreneurs, as founders, as creators, as artists, and so on, is we're creating.
Yeah.
And we're creating through a place of curiosity. And through that curiosity, we can utilize our resources to continue to play the game of curiosity.
Yeah.
Because if we stop playing the game of curiosity, that's where our souls die. That's where depression comes in. That's where massive amounts of alcohol comes in. That's where all the avoidance comes in. If we're not creating, we're dying. If we're not growing, we're dying. And there is no arrival and there is no pinnacle.
Yeah.
There's just always another form of expression.
Yeah.
And it's not about achieving or having, even that's fun, because then we can continue to play the game.
Yeah.
Because you can't play the game without the chess pieces, right?
Yeah.
Or, Monopoly, you have to continue to have the money to be able to buy real estate and grow.
Yeah.
But it shortens the game. It says that's just the game. Like, it's just to acquire all the money.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's about impacting the rest of the board.
Yeah.
It's about growing the rest of it and taking your hands off and saying, my gosh, what can be created and what sandbox do I want to play in and who do I want to play with?
Yeah.
Just taking it all the way back to basics. So
Yeah, I explained this, particularly my oldest son, because he was always the son that planned everything out, high school, what AP courses, college, study abroad, everything was a plan. And I noticed, I'm like, and this is my family, we all grew up going to Disney World and Hershey Park and just riding roller coasters as a family. And my curiosity with roller coasters started when I was 6. I snuck on a ride, busted my lip open at Hershey Park, but it stuck with me, that thrill. So now that I look back at life and the journey as an entrepreneur, like that first couple of years, you're just click, 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 trying to get up over the hill, right? And all of a sudden, it unleashes and you go. Too many entrepreneurs and too many people in their personal lives want to get to the end of the roller coaster ride. Well, what happens at the end of the roller coaster? You're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. It's not fun. The ride is what's enjoyable.
it becomes boring, actually.
Right, it's
And
very
that's where-
boring.
and that's where the drama comes in.
Right.
One of my partners will always say, he's like, listen, business gets to a point in time to where you've built it, you've created, you create. We love to create as human beings and as creators. You get to the point in time to where you're going down, or the hockey stick, or whatever you want to call it. It becomes mundane. It becomes structured.
Yeah.
Systems are in place, and everything just click. Like, it just goes along. There's no more those rushes. There's no more of those things. Yeah, there's different things. You're growing. There's problems and so forth. You're solving them. But for the most part, it's the human beings inside the organization that are causing the drama because they're bored.
Right.
And that's a whole other story for another time. But
Yeah.
I appreciate so much that you making the journey out here to Salt Lake City. I want people to be able to find a lot more about your program so that they can start to learn if they're in these steps. Also, I would love for people to learn more about how that we get proactive about being proactive about suicide, asking hard questions. Where do people find you if they want to reach out to you about maybe some documentary or story or anything that they want to align with you with? Where can they find you?
Well, information on Live Prosperous is at www.liveprosperous.com. I would highly encourage just taking the survey. The survey is a great check-in to say, I'm being present and this is where I'm at right today. It's simple. I gave it to a young woman in a restaurant. She was waiting on my table, and I said, hey, check this out. Within 5 minutes, she did the survey. She's like, I need to learn how to be a pilot. Yeah, she learned she needed to take control of her life. So it just happens just like that. So go to www.liveprosperous.com. You can sign up, take the survey, give you an idea of where it is. For me personally, I'm at you can get through me through liveprosperous.com, or you can email me at bobby@liveprosperous.com. My other company, Talaria Media, has a website, talariamedia.com, that shows the films that we've done, some of the things that we're working on. So, I appreciate you having. I love. Again, I've been blessed with success and prosperity, and it's given me an opportunity to build a new platform to share, but also to meet fantastic folks like you who share the same passion and desire to help people grow.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do this, right? That's what I love about it. People are like, well, you bring people on and you send them to other links and this and that. Like, you're not keeping your audience. And I'm like, listen, this is just about amplifying other people. We'll figure it out along the process. It'll all work itself out. I'm not worried about that. My intention is to figure out how do we awaken humanity? And there's so many tools to be able to do that. Is there any asks that you would have from our audience, that anything that you could imagine if there was a genie out there and you could say, hey, listen, I got this genie out there. I got one wish. What would you wish?
I wish that they take a moment. We talk about the power of the pause. Pause. Just hit pause on life for a little bit and just take a moment to see where you're at and who's in your life. Like I said, that those reflective questions is what do you most care about, right? But that requires you to take the pause. And then when you figure out who you most care about, get very intentional about applying your time, talent, and treasure to those things and those people.
Whew. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to leave you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in, watching, and taking your time and energy to have a conversation with myself and Bobby. And there's more to come.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Bobby.
Thank you.
Cheers.